Welcome back to our daily show. Here's CJ.
Well, it's all right, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's all right. Sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's all right, as long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's all right. Every day is Judgment Day.
Somewhere down the road.
How are we doing? Welcome back, 1012. Good to see you. Hey, we just had, this is an exciting weekend here on the riverfront. We just talked to MRF yesterday. We got the powerboat racing coming up. I might live stream that one though and stay or on the roof here. That'd be a good spot. Jay Keeven, nice to meet you, sir. You're running for state representative against Katie Stuart, correct?
Yes, in the 112th district.
And how are we doing this morning?
Doing fantastic. We've been knocking on a lot of doors and talking to a lot of people, and I think we got quite a bit of momentum in our district.
Well, and it's really an interesting time point in the process here with the summer months starting now. You got the first presidential debate starting, so now that general election is starting to get into people's minds. And right off the bat, what are some of the conversations that you've been having with some of your potential constituents throughout the district?
Well, I'll tell you, the main thing that I'm hearing from people is the cost of living and
Yeah.
taxes. And they're very concerned that, the taxes keep going up.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. And although your property taxes are come from the county, not necessarily from the state, but there's a reason that those taxes go up. And if you look at like Madison County government, and Paul and his fellow board members have done a great job. Madison County,
Yeah.
the county itself is lowering taxes. School districts have been raising them, but school districts are 2/3 of your tax bill, your property tax bill. And I don't necessarily fault the school district. I fault the state of Illinois because they're forcing these unfunded mandates on the school districts and other units of government. I currently work for the city of Troy, Illinois. We get unfunded mandates all the time, things that we must do that don't come with money associated with it. So a school district, they have contracts with their employees. They know what their employment costs are to hire people. They have electric bills and utility bills just like you have, and they have to pay those. So when you pile the unfunded mandates on them and the state doesn't give them the funds to cover it, it has to come from somewhere, which raises property taxes. So the state of Illinois, our legislators can do things to help our property tax bill. They're just choosing not to.
Yeah, and what I think's really interesting, just hearing what you had to say there, Mr. Keevan, is the fact that, bottom line, I'm sure that 90% of the individuals don't know why there's so many issues or why taxes are going up or why they're paying what they're paying now. And when they hear you kind of explain this a little bit, does it turn into a different conversation that's not really left or right anymore, but just how is our government operating? Because I'm sure that's, a big question mark for some of those folks too.
Well, I will tell you that most of the people that I'm talking to when I'm knocking on doors in the evening times, they're not far right and they're not far left.
Yeah.
Most of us live right in the middle.
Yep.
And they want solutions. They don't want you talking down the other party. They don't want bickering back and forth. They want you to come together and find solutions. And that's what I'd like to do. I've been in public service my entire life. I started with the Illinois State Police and I worked there for 27 years. I then went to Edwardsville as their police chief. I worked there for a little over 8 years, and I'm currently the city administrator in Troy. And I tell you, at the local government level, we work together very well. And the state government could take a lesson from that. I mean, if state government ran the way local government did and was as accountable as local government is, we would be in a better position right now statewide.
Well, and what I find really fascinating in a positive way is, having Paul here from Madison County Board. When you have conversations at a state rep level, if you are to win the general in November, for your constituents to know, hey, I'm going to be collaborating or having these conversations with County Board just to keep that line of transparency, that line of communication. Has that kind of gone a little bit of a way for you in a positive light when you're having these conversations too? Because it seems like there is a disconnect from the state level, no matter if it's reps to senators, what have you, to the county-wide level where we could actually have those conversations about what's affecting us here downstate Illinois.
Well, I mean, that's what you should be doing.
Well, yeah.
As a state representative, you represent your district. You don't represent your own position and your own desires. What you do is you go back to your district, and who better knows the district than your county board members and your county elected officials, because they're I don't want to say in the trenches because we're not at war, but they're in the field every day with people, and they hear from them. I mean, in Paul's case, if he has done something that his constituents don't like, they know where he lives. They'll knock on his door. They'll see him at the grocery store, and they'll say, "Hey, we don't care for this." Or if they need help with something, they know where he lives. They see him at the grocery store, and they say, "Hey, can you work on this?" So yeah, obviously, those are the people I want to stay in touch with because they help me reach a broader base within the district. Now, granted, I don't care which group it is, if it's a coalition of women voters or whoever, I'm happy to work with anybody. But our county board members are the ones that they're really in touch with their district.
Well, and Paul, fill me in a little bit about why you're, working with, or helping Jay out here on this campaign. What are your thoughts as a county board member and just heading into the general in 2024?
Well, did you listen to him right now? That was, I mean,
I had to ask.
I met him and I'm like, this is a really impressive individual. He's perfect for public service. He's done the law enforcement angle because to me, as government, it should be basic, keeping your people safe, right? That's our number one responsibility is elected officials, to make sure we give law enforcement their tools. So, I mean, he's got that covered. Did very well at that. He's a chief of police. How many people can say they've been elevated to that?
Yeah.
Now he's in city government doing a great job. Troy is a very well-run city. Residents like him there, so I'm like, all right, this is a very impressive guy. He can do very good things for anywhere he works, really, but let alone being in public service. So I'm like, how can you not get behind him?
100%. And now, Jay, as you're walking through the district, and curious to know, has the Edwardsville, school district, any of those conversations? Because we've had reports here on RiverBender that have been some of our most viewed stories and most interacted with regarding the the bathrooms that were the changes made to the bathrooms and that one gender bathroom. If I'm mispronouncing the term they gave, it, my apologies. But there's been a lot of those conversations. Have you heard directly from anyone in that area regarding their concerns or any thoughts they have?
Yeah, many of the folks when I'm knocking doors and I'm talking to people in the Edwardsville and Glen Carbon area are concerned about the multi-gender bathrooms, if you will. But even those that are saying, "Hey, we're kind of fine with the bathroom scenario," they're concerned about the cost. So as a fiscal conservative, there's a cost for everything we do. And then you really should do what is called a cost-benefit analysis to say, if we spend this amount of money, do we get this amount of benefit or maybe greater benefit from it? So we should be looking at cost-benefit. I'll tell you, one of the school resource officers who was my supervisor for school resource officers when I was a police chief, he has since retired as well. And, he told me when I was a police chief, hey, the biggest problem we are having in school is the kids with vaping and doing things that they shouldn't be doing in the bathrooms. And so now with the new setup, and again, even if you're for the shared bathroom, you're telling me now we're going to have an enclosed water closet, if you will, several of them, completely enclosed. They must be ventilated because it's a restroom.
Yeah.
And how easy is it going to be for a student to take their vape pen or their girlfriend or whatever into that stall with them, lock that door, and be secure in there with a ventilation system that's individualized for that particular room to do whatever they want to do there. So, there's unintended consequences that come with some of these things. So again, even the folks that were telling me that, hey, we're okay if they're gender neutral bathrooms and, as long as it's a separate stall and it's enclosed, but then there's other issues that come with that. So sometimes I think it's short-sighted to not look at the entire program.
Yeah, and that's because my initial thought, Jay, was what happens if someone has a seizure in that bathroom, and we don't know, and some of those medical emergencies that were kind of coming into discussion. And now, recently we saw that there was a measure put on the ballot to kind of pull away from Cook County in a little bit. What are your thoughts, as someone who has the potential to be representing Southern Illinois in this election in November if you win, what's your thoughts going forward on how we're going to have conversations at this level with, other senators, other state reps, maybe even the governor's office on the displeasures that we're seeing down here in this portion, especially here in Madison County, where we're seeing folks saying, let's split away, we don't need this, we don't want to be a part of Cook County anymore, get them away from us. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know that we would ever follow that process to split from Cook County and split our state. I mean, it's a doable thing, but I don't know that we would do that. But I do think that it sends a loud message. It's a non-binding referendum, but it does send a loud message to say, hey, we are not pleased with what's occurring throughout the rest of the state of Illinois. We don't want to be dictated to by Cook County and the collar counties and said, this is how your world's going to go. I mean, we are a population of people that would like to have some say in our government. I'm hopeful to be that person that's going to have the say in our government, and I'm not going to be a rubber stamp for Chicago. And my thought process is, quite frankly, let the people's voices be heard. And even if it doesn't bring about the change that some people would like to see, at least they have the chance to say, hey, this is my opinion, and yes or no, we would like to have some degree of separation. I get it. I get the frustration. I mean, I don't like other people making decisions for our district, and it seems like that's what happens quite often.
100%. You guys got a moment to stick around real quick?
Sure.
I think this is a good pause point here. At 10:23, we'll take a quick break, but if you're looking for a fresh start on the road to recovery, a life free from addiction is possible, and it starts with our partners here at RiverBender.com and Centerstone. Centerstone's that national leader in mental health and substance use disorder treatment for people of all ages, with a commitment to delivering care that changes people's lives. What I think's cool is they don't use just a template of, well, we've done this for 20 years, follow the steps, you're good to go. They use evidence-based practices now in these treatment programs, so they're going to really go into that individual and see what they really need to work on medication-wise, mentally, and then help them combat that substance use disorder treatment. You can join Centerstone and myself on the first and last Wednesday of each and every month as we discuss this very important topic, or you can learn more by going to recoverwithus.org. That's recoverwithus.org.
No matter the season, Play It Again Sports in Edwardsville has the gear the athletes need to get in the game. Whether you're shopping for the newest sports equipment or saving money on quality used gear, Play It Again Sports carries what you need to maximize performance to get the most out of every swing, kick, stroke, or shot. We'll even buy your used goods, paying cash on the spot. We carry all the gear for all the sports all year long. We're your hometown sporting goods store. Play It Again Sports, conveniently located at 4 Club Center Court in Edwardsville.
I just got a new air conditioner. Top of the line.
I bet mine's better. It's so efficient and quiet, I hardly know it's running.
I've got you both trumped. I've got a Linux.
So do I.
Barrett Heating and Cooling carries Linux products to meet any budget. Don't gamble with your energy dollars. Call Barrett Heating and Cooling and start saving today.
Lennox. Innovation never felt so good.
With over 20 years of experience, Wilson's Tree Service has the expertise to handle all of your tree care needs. Licensed and fully insured, their team of experts are dedicated to providing reliable service. Plus, with a 24-hour emergency service line, Wilson's will always be there for you. Don't risk tackling that timber by yourself. Trust the local professionals at Wilson's Tree Service. Visit treeservicealtonil.org to get started today.
Welcome to Evergreen Place, a community that embodies joyful living, independence, and financial freedom for seniors. If you're looking for a full day of activities or to relax in your apartment, we have you covered. Located on the Alton Memorial Campus. To know us is to love us. Experience the difference at Evergreen Place.
Life's better when you're under our roof. That's because our expert agents will make you feel totally protected with the right auto and home coverage at the right price. Also, you can enjoy the dreams you worked so hard to achieve. American Family Insurance.
Since 1993, Sparks Junk Removal is always adapting to the needs of our clients. That is why we now offer weekly trash pickup for selected areas. Plus, we offer driveway-safe rubber-tired dumpster rental. Give us a call today at 618-781-1407 or visit us at sparksjunkremoval.net.
Not sure if you've noticed, but those advertised prices from the other dealers are just a bunch of blah, blah, blah. At Roberts Motors, the advertised price is the price you pay. And that, my friend, is great news for you. Don't fall for their so-called incentives that will leave you banging your head against the wall. Go with Roberts Motors. Prices you can trust and people you will like. That's the Roberts Motors way. And trust me, it's the way to go.
In the heart-pounding moments of the game, every move counts, just like in chiropractic care. Dr. Andrew Dykman of Rosewood Chiropractic champions this belief, supporting our teams in every drive and supporting his patients for nearly 20 years, offering affordable, compassionate, all-natural wellness care. Call 618-259-2676 or visit rosewoodchiropractic.com today. Welcome back to our daily show. Here's CJ. Southern Cross, Crosby, Still. He can't go wrong with some good Southern rock. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Yep, and Young.
True story. Rick James has a connection.
No way.
I promise you, look it up. He moved to Canada sometime in his life, teens, early 20s, and he met all those guys, and he's done some work with them.
That is an interesting partnership. Rick James,
Oh, yeah.
I love that, man. That's cool. Jay, getting back to the race, I know that, Paul, where you're at in the county board, a lot of the precincts are, pretty much all of them are in Jay's district. And, with that being said, there's still an election coming down for all levels of state, and county board's one of those. And now, when we had the primary coverage, you called it out, and you told me this on the air. I remember you saying, right now we don't have anyone we're looking at, but they're going to slate them.
Sure.
It's going to happen. And fill me in a little bit more on this, Paul, because you have some really key insights to this slating situation, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are and kind of some of the hurdles that are being thrown.
Wow, this is so bizarre. So we knew there's probably going to be some Democrat candidates slated after the smoke cleared.
Yeah.
They had nobody in the primary. There's no primary contentions. They had Democrats up, but they didn't have any opponents. So I'm like, you're going to slate somebody who we don't know. So then you started to pick out patterns and stuff like that. So it looks like they slated 5 candidates in the southern part of the county, 3 in the Collinsville, Maryville area, 2 in Edwardsville, Glen Carbon. And a lot of Katie's precincts are there. So I'm like, okay, they're going to help her out. They're going to run, they're going to back each other, support each other. Understandable, but I don't have a problem with slating. The more people who can run, the more voices out there, give people more options. I'm for it.
Yeah.
Across the board.
True, yeah.
I'm for those 5 Democrats getting on the ballot, but here's the hypocrisy, and this happened within a week's time. They're fighting Jay, right? We had to get a bunch of signatures in a short time to get all signatures complete so it could be on the ballot. So they were fighting that, but within a week, Katie Stewart's out promoting these, as they call it, like-minded individuals. We have these 5 candidates. They're slated. They're good. So all these people, in this group, too, of Democrats are backing Katie, which is fine. That's their right. But you're slating candidates, but then you're trying to get other candidates off the ballot.
Yeah.
That doesn't be consistent. Do you want county board candidates slated, but you're not okay with a state rep slated getting candidated and, slated? And the thing is, they did they think it's a short-term gain. It's going to hurt them in the end. What they did is going to be hard to undo, making it impossible to slate candidates now. And who knows where the smoke's going to clear after the lawsuits. Maybe their new law will be deemed unconstitutional, period. They can't put it through ever. But just like that was just so short-sighted. We don't want people running against our candidates this election cycle, so we're going to change the rules. That's bizarre to me. It seems like that's a pattern in national politics lately. I didn't want it to come local, but now it seems local. Just changing the rules of an election. That's Why?
Hold that thought on the national issue. I want to touch on that here in a second. But, Jay, just hearing Paul's thoughts on this, and, thank you for breaking that down a little bit more clearly for me. What is your reaction just to some of what's going on and, maybe blocking ballot access? Jay, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I will tell you when Jay Hoffman put forth what they're calling, or what we're calling, the Katie Stuart Protection Act, and basically we're saying that what they did is they took a shell bill. So they had a bill that was from DCFS to protect children. It had 2 readings in the Senate, and it was in the House. Jay takes that bill and he says, we're going to rewrite the bill. It's already had 2 readings. They rewrite the bill to say you can't be on the November ballot if you were a slated candidate for the state legislature only for the state legislature.
Yeah, makes sense.
On a DCFS bill?
They took a DCFS bill to protect children, and it had 2 readings in the House already. It had already passed the Senate. They took that language out, and they gutted that bill, and they put language in there to keep me off the ballot. They had one more reading, the 3rd reading, which was truly the first for this language, and they passed that bill in the night on a Wednesday night. At that point in time, I probably had about 300 or less petition signatures, and I needed 500, and usually you want to submit quite a few more than that,
Right.
because they'll challenge some signatures. And that following Thursday, we did a drive-through petition drive. So instead of going to door-to-door knock, we asked people to come to us. We did it at one of Bob Plummer's hotels in Edwardsville, and Annie Fry got on the radio and said, hey, please come out and help this guy get on the ballot. They're playing some dirty tricks. And I couldn't believe it, because we had about 500 signatures in 4 hours. We had times when we had cars 4 deep lined up with people coming in to sign that petition. So we ended up I filed my petition about 30 minutes before the Senate passed the bill.
Oh my gosh.
And then the following day, the governor signed the bill. So my petition got in, and one more candidate did. Right. Well, there has since been a lawsuit, and all the Republican candidates, I believe there were 14 of them, that were slated, that got kicked, basically were going to be kicked off the ballot. A Sangamon County judge stayed that and said, hey, it's unconstitutional. You can't change the rules in the middle of the game. And then I later find out when I'm talking to Paul that, well, how ironic is it that Katie's out there supporting these 5 individuals to run against county board seats as slated Democratic candidates. So good for me, but not for you. So anyway, but Katie Stuart Protection Act failed, and I'm sure they'll try something else. They're not going to give up. They don't want to have choice in this district.
Let me ask you, do you think the reaction, 500 people lining up this, the street throughout the day to get you signatures is pretty impressive. Do you think it's because of being, on certain sides of a topic, or are people just tired of the political bullshit?
Well, see, Jake, can I correct you real quick? We didn't have 500 people getting signatures. We had a group of people who got 500 signatures.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant. 500 signatures that day is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we got
4 hours.
But do you
4 hours.
attribute that to people agreeing with policy, or is it just stopping political bullshit?
I would say probably the greatest piece of that is people are just tired of the nonsense.
Okay.
They truly are tired of the nonsense. But I do tell you, when I'm talking to people within this district, there are a lot of people ready for change. There truly are. They want somebody that's going to work for this district and not pull the lever as they're told to for Chicago.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, going back and picking up on your point again about that nationalization of a statewide and a local election, whenever you're talking to constituents, whenever you're just out working and doing what you're doing in the campaign, how important is it to not bring those national issues into your local race? Because I'm sure there are some national issues that are very important to the folks at home that directly affect them, but there's also some that really don't have that direct of an effect on the district, on that group of constituents. When you're having those conversations, did you ever try to separate those 2 items, or is it better to talk about them in an overview when you're meeting?
Well, I have made it clear to people that I'm running for a statewide race.
Yeah.
And no matter what your national thought process is. But I will tell you that national issues do impact our state. So we're not a border state.
Yeah.
But we are a sanctuary state. Chicago is a sanctuary city. So the immigration crisis that we're facing at our border is certainly impacting our residents. I mean, this year, the Democrats in the House and the Senate passed a $53 billion spending bill.
Yeah.
$53 billion. When Governor Pritzker came in 6 years ago, our budget was about $39 billion.
Wow.
We are now at $53 billion.
That's a lot.
1.1 billion of that was new tax revenue. So we're paying for that. We're paying for additional. We're paying additionally. We're paying for the whole budget. I mean, government runs by tax dollars.
Yeah.
So an additional 1.1 billion of tax dollars, and 1 billion of that going to support people who are not even citizens of the country, not much less the state. They're not citizens of this country. But yet, are we doing our Veterans Affairs shake? You know, are we helping our low-income people? But we certainly are helping folks that are not even residents of this country, much less this state. So the national issues do impact us, but it's clear to me that, you know, I want people to understand, you know, I'm running for the state of Illinois. I'm not running at the national level. I certainly have my opinions on how we could do things better, but I'm focused on improving the state of Illinois.
Really, really cool. And now, Jay, you know, as we keep talking, there was a comment that was sent to me in an email a few weeks back, and it was about a quote that was potentially made, and I'm sure it was. There's multiple publications of it, of, you know, the governor saying at one point in time there's friends down south in Illinois that could help us in Chicago, and he was referring to the uptick of migrants. What are your thoughts on, you know, kind of ensuring that, hey, you know, because it seems like, and I'm saying a right or wrong issue, but it just seems like we don't have the financial capacity to support a group of people that, you know, such as migrants. We just don't have the money for it. How can you protect the southern part of Illinois from, you know, maybe having to house additional individuals that we can barely afford to, you know, house our unhoused that we currently have, you know, in the area now?
Well, that's going to be a tough issue across the board. I mean, Chicago is struggling with that as we speak.
Yeah.
You talk about unfunded mandates. Yeah. My goodness, you know, if they tell us, hey, we're going to send X number of people to your community, and you're going to need to start picking up the tab for them, we don't have the facilities to do that.
Sure. And I'll tell you what, CJ, too, we put something, not to cut Jay off, but we put something up on a county board of resolution saying we don't want them in our county just because we can't afford them.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have any place to house them. This seems to be like a never expanding problem.
Yeah.
That we just more and more keep coming. I think the estimates between 35 and 50,000 now up there.
Yeah, I don't know what the number truly is.
It's really hard to get the estimate, but that, I mean, just seems to keep growing. It doesn't seem to be stopping. So if we got a large influx in our county, that could really be a burden. And that's our part where, like, you know, Jay takes a different path on that than Katie, and then, you know, the local Republicans seem to take a different path than the local Democrats on that. They seem to, you know, didn't have a problem with the migrants coming down as long as we supposedly got money for them, but I mean, no one ever promised us money, and something like that would be a continuous problem, because let's say that we only get like 1,000 migrants. That doesn't sound like a lot, but 1,000 people you need housed, you need beds for, and you need 3 meals a day. That starts to add up, and then we need to, you know, line them up in schools and everything. It's just, it would burden our county.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't. It's not a moral conversation. No. It's just a question of, can we financially do this, and do we have the space to do it too? And I think that's a very fair way to break that down. And you know, Jay, as we're keep talking here, one of the things that's been hitting this area a little bit more too is just, you know, people are kind of looking and going, you know, we have no inventory for homes right now. I mean, right now, rental properties are through the roof. I mean, if I wanted to live in the same type of house I bought a year ago, I'm looking at paying almost double in rent what my house bill is. And, you know, going forward, is there anything that you can do from the state rep level to maybe help number one, the tightness of the inventory in houses, and maybe just providing a program for young people to start pursuing their American dream here in the Southern District?
Well, I think making sure that people can make a living wage and make a fair wage. I mean, there are job opportunities out there, but can you afford to pay your bills? I mean, when rent has doubled, and literally has doubled in the last few years, I can get a job, but even at, you know, with a rate of $15 an hour, I can't afford to pay rent plus feed a family on my salary. So we have to create job opportunities. We have to support business. We have to support small business. I mean, they're the engine that runs your economy.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, we have United Technical just came into Troy, and they're creating probably about 25 good-paying machinist jobs. And it's not the it's not the days of the old machine shops that are hot and sweaty. This place is air conditioned, and the machinists are running around with iPads.
Yeah.
They're wearing polo shirts.
Yeah.
And they do machine work there. They do some government work that they're not allowed to tell me about what they're making. They're making parts for
that's cool.
For government defense, and then they're also making plastic bottles. So they created Blow Mold is the name of their company as well. But that's 25 jobs, and they're paying dang near $100,000 a year. That helps your economy. Yeah. That helps drive, and eventually our housing market will straighten out. Eventually, over time, the world's going to right itself again, and we're not going to be, kind of upside down. And when the market kind of balances out, and you have a good inventory of houses, and it matches buyers that are looking for houses, and you're not lopsided one way or another, then I think prices come back into the realm of reality. And again, as long as somebody's making it, and we're affording opportunities for a good living wage and helping create those small businesses and support those small businesses, and getting people, trained and getting people the opportunity to get these good jobs. I mean, my dad always said, "The Lord helps those who help themselves." So if I'm willing to go and get trained to learn how to do a job and make a good living, and I'm willing to work every day, I'm going to do well. Mm-hmm. There's just no doubt about it. So I think opportunity is the big key there for balancing that, and I think we can create opportunities by supporting businesses and making sure people have a safe working environment and making sure people make a living wage when they're working.
And just to follow up on that, because that's a really great point, and I had no idea about the machinist shop up in Troy, but that sounds like a huge opportunity for the area. And we always hear the word economic impact. That's true, economic impact, because it's always in our day-to-day lives. It's not just there and gone. When you're talking about supporting businesses, is it your takeaway that there should be some type of municipality or some district help for maybe someone that's coming in and, like you said, the 25 machinist shops that are providing $100,000 wages? Is there some type of corporate, I don't want to say welfare, but some type of corporate help to those organizations? You support that in terms of, a repayable grant, a repayable, couple of $1 million loan to get them into the building. Is there any type of corporate help that you support in those drives as well?
Well, I do support it. We've created 2 TIF districts in Troy since I've been there. Now, a TIF district can be managed properly where it's really not hitting the taxpayer. It's money that's generated. So although we didn't do a TIF with this business, this United Technical that I'm talking about, we did give them a tax abatement on their building for 10 years at 90%. So what they would pay to the city, now just the city's portion, that's what we control. But they are going to receive a 90% tax abatement. Now what happens is that land was vacant land and it was being taxed, and let's say the city was getting $200 a year on that. Well, now he comes and he builds a facility on there that's worth multi-million dollars. And the city is now getting about, I don't know, say $3,000 in taxes. Oh, wow. So we're giving 90% of that back to him. It's money that his business generated by building.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the proper way. If you're doing a TIF district, now again, this wasn't a TIF. This was just a one-off agreement that we did with him. But in a TIF district, the same thing. To provide money back for something that if somebody is redeveloping, I mean, they've done a great job here in Alton with a lot of the redevelopment that they've done. Collinsville has done it on Main Street. Edwardsville has done it on their downtown, and Highland has done it, and we're doing it in Troy now. And when you have vacant buildings in your downtown, it's disheartening. So if you're telling somebody that this vacant building, which is generating $2,000 in taxes a year, but you're going to do $1 million renovation to it, and now it's going to generate $20,000 in taxes a year, that increment is 18. That 20,000 that we're getting now compared to the 2,000 we were, well, that's the money in a bucket that we can say we wouldn't have gotten that had it not been for your investment in our community. And that's the money that we can look at refunding back to help offset that cost. So to me, if a TIF district is operated properly, it certainly can benefit, and it doesn't come at a big burden to the taxpayers. Now, when you have businesses that you're offering funds to that are coming anyway, then it's really not really all that helpful. Yeah. So, but in depressed and blighted areas that need redevelopment or that need development, they work very well. And there's these partnerships that we make with local businesses. And again, not only are they generating sales tax for us and property tax for us, but they're paying living wages to individuals and giving work opportunities so that our residents don't have to go across the river to St. Louis, or our residents don't have to go to another community to find work. They can find work right in their own hometown.
That's really it's a really great point, Jay. And Paul, as we're talking now too, going in, have they slated somebody against you in your board seat?
Yeah, it's one of the 5 days.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what's kind of, I haven't been attacked or anything like that.
Right.
Right. And I'm not into that kind of stuff either. I just want to talk about our different governing philosophies.
Yeah.
What I've noticed from just some of the local Democrats, ones slated and running this new energy within the Democrat Party, they seem to be really counterintuitive and just completely different than us. Mm-hmm. Like I just noticed, like with for spending, like, for example, the county, like Jay said earlier, we've lowered our taxes, our overall tax rate. Can the other taxing bodies do that in the area? So it seems like when there's Republican control, more of a conservative way of spending, you have lower taxes. And every taxing body's different, but I'd like to see those kind of trends instead of the large increases. So I think going with that philosophy of spending, I think the county tax would go up if you see, kind of, new kind of style of governing in the county. And like I said too about the migrant situation, we're like, well, we can't handle this. And, they seem to mirror a lot what's going on in Chicago.
Yeah.
And more of the upstate Democrats. Seems like a disconnect to what we want here. I'm not sure why that is. Certain things, like I've lived in a county my whole life. We've had a rise of homeless people. It's a very tough issue. We have to be compassionate about it. We're for stopping encampments. That's kind of wild to see people camped out on the street. Not many states allow that. Not many municipalities do. So, we're trying to get the ball rolling on that, just to ban encampments. We're not it's not a war on homeless people. We just don't think that's good and healthy for a city to have people camping on their, in their parks or, downtown area. And they were saying that was unconstitutional. They wanted to basically keep the ability to have encampments, which, forget about the homeless situation. You just don't want anybody camping up on the street.
Well, and that's a good point. And it was one that was discussed here in Alton whenever they were proposing that of a similar ordinance. And I think the conception of the public, not a misconception, but the thought was, well, this is what you just said, Paul, a war against homeless people, and we're And that's a great clarifier. And now on top of that too, currently the city of Alton has been going through this saga with the Salvation Army's proposed New Hope House. And I know that there's things coming into county board.
Oh, yeah.
Would like your thoughts on the matter as we are having these conversations at the city government level, and just we've had 2 neighborhoods now almost, I don't want to say overwhelmingly, but I would say a very conservative number of 70 to 30 against this project. What are your thoughts as you go forward at the county level?
Well, I'm glad you told me that. I think it's City of Alton. What do the people want? If you're telling me it's 70-30, that probably means it shouldn't go here. The thing is, the city council, I think, is going to make a call Wednesday, right?
Okay.
Next Wednesday. I'm going to be interested to see on that. I'm doing my research on it now. This is going to be for the whole county.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a very large project. I think $2.5 million of federal money might go into it. So if you're going to do that for the whole county, maybe you could pick a more central location. That was, some people were saying that. Because this is really the north end of the county. It took me about 40 minutes to get here.
Right.
Yeah. Something maybe in the middle, so people from Collinsville can get there equal time. Grant City, Alton, Wood River, Bethalto, because it's long term. This is not like we're going to be building these everywhere. So we just kind of, maybe not a one-shot deal, but let's make this right, because this building is going to be here long after we're gone.
That's a good point.
And let's do the right thing. And everything has to be drawn up right. The bids, everything has to be, it's the proper. We know when you're dealing with something that's important, everything's got to be lined up, and you just can't rush into things and go on emotion.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'd like to get some follow-up maybe next week or the following week as the city of Alton makes that decision and develops further to get insights. And Jay, as we get back to you for your state representative race, going forward, what is some of your platform that you could share with our audience that we haven't had time to hit on? We've already been chatting for 40 minutes now, so I wanted to make sure that if folks wanted to learn more about some of your key issues, some of your key thoughts, feel free to share them while we have the time.
Well, certainly, I think I mentioned earlier, I spent 27 years with the Illinois State Police. The Illinois State Police model for ISP was integrity, service, and pride. Integrity is first. And that was kind of as a 21-year-old man, that was drilled into my head. And prior to that, my dad drilled that into my head. You know, be honest with people, treat people right. And I would like to bring integrity back to government. I knew that political service would be different than public service. I've had, an entire career, almost 40 years of my life, I've been involved in public service. The side of Illinois politics is just, it doesn't have to be that way. We should be working together and not trying to fight to remove choice from the ballot. But, I mean, that being said, I would like to bring integrity back to government. I think we should all be embarrassed that the former Speaker of the House is going to go on trial this fall for corruption. He's being charged federally, and he's being charged in state court, and he's going on trial this fall. I mean, that shouldn't be happening, and that's not just one party. There's been both.
You're right. It's a both sides issue in this state for years.
And we need to get back to integrity. We need to remember who we're working for. We need to understand what a republic is. You know, I go to Springfield and I represent the people, and then when my time is done, I say, "Hey, Paul, I did my turn. Now it's your turn to go." That's how it used to be. Well, now people are making careers there, and I'm telling you, I'm too old to make a career there. I don't want to make a career there. I don't want to live there. I want to go do my duty. I want to do my maybe a term or 2 or 3, whatever that is, but I don't want to make a career there. I've already had a successful career. I've had a couple of successful careers. I want to go help this community.
Right.
The second piece is, obviously, with my policing background, I support law enforcement, and we got to get back to that. We're doing better now than we were a few years ago. I used to tell the officers in Edwardsville when, people were beating us up on the news all the time, and, all policing was bad, and we've seen some of those posts from individuals that are like, every police officer should be removed, I said the pendulum will swing back. The pendulum goes back and forth. After 9/11, people love public safety. And now it's the George Floyd issue was kind of a kickoff to that. And then we had the Michael Brown shooting in Missouri, which brought that here closer to home. And I mean, people would pull their child by the hand away from a police officer standing in line to pay for their gas at a Quick Trip. It was craziness. They were afraid of the police. Police are a cross-section of society. And I will tell you, there are bad apples in policing. There are bad apples in radio broadcasting. There are bad apples in...
Easy here. I'm doing the show still,
There are bad apples everywhere. Right. We need to weed them out and get rid of them. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we need to support our good police officers. And I will tell you, 99.9% of them are good, and they're in it for the right reason. So that was my second piece. I think we need to support our police, and we need to have safe communities. For the most part, we do have safe communities in this district. But there is a crime issue. The Safety Act has made us unsafe. The Safety Act makes it harder to protect your citizens. And I would work on, if we could repeal pieces of that. I mean, another bill passed in the middle of the night. I mean, it's just craziness. It's not common sense. And then the last thing is it costs too much living. And whether that's your property tax or whether it's the fact that your grocery bill is doubled or your gasoline bill is doubled or utility costs are through the roof, there are things we can do. We can work on regulating some of the utility companies to say, hey, look, show me how your costs have gone up 30% before you can raise that rate 30%. I don't want them to lose money. I want them to be in business to make a profit. That's what they should do. They got shareholders that expect them to make a profit. They got people that work in the utility companies that make their living, that help the community by spending their money within the community that they earn. But it's got to be reasonable. It's got to be common sense. And that, if it's the one thing that I will bring to the table is common sense. Plain and simple, look at something from all angles. And does it make sense to do it? If it makes sense to do it, we should do it. But if that conscience sitting on your shoulder is telling you, hey, this ain't right, maybe you should not do it, Bottom line is, if you look at it with a common sense lens, and if you vote the way your district would want you to vote. Now, granted, there are people in this district that are going to say, well, I want X, and the other people in the district say, I want Y. Well, that's when you go right back to Paul's. If it's a 70-30 split, you go with the 70%.
Yeah.
And you know what? I might be with the 30% personally.
That's a good point.
But I got to vote my district.
That's a good point.
And unfortunately, I don't think we have that in the House in the 112th district right now. And I'll bring that to this district.
Absolutely. Jay Keeven is running for state representative. And Jay, I hope to be speaking with you more as the campaign keeps heating on up. And Paul, I would like to talk to you next week or the following week as we have more, especially on this Salvation Army New Hope House. But your final thoughts on this conversation?
Well, now you know why I'm supporting this guy so much. And why I've already knocked, significant amount of doors for him. Anybody that Jay engages with Jay, kind of he spoke at my church, would be like, wow, this guy's pretty impressive. He's in it for the right reasons. Say he don't want to make a career out of it. That tells me a lot right there. He wants to go there and do good because he's going to take a lot of incoming. Anybody who runs for political office is going to take a lot of incoming, let alone someone who's run against a 3-time incumbent with Katie Stewart's backing. In closing, I think it's maybe not about right or left, maybe not about Democrat or Republican. It's about up or down. How do you want your quality of life to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're doing good in the county. We're back in law enforcement. Like I said, our sheriff, Jeff Connor, and our state attorney, Tom Hain, their number one job is to keep the public safe. I think they're doing an amazing job. And I just want to make their job easier. Certain things like the Safety Act, it does burden policemen, big time. And unfunded mandates, they're included in the Safety Act. Jay can touch on that too sometime, but we're just here to make people's quality of life better, keep their taxes lower, get more for their government. That's what I can do as a county board member. Certain things I can't do. My scope's limited basically to budgets, taxes, oversight. And we can do certain things like something like the homeless encampments. That should be a no-brainer. Like I said, once again, municipalities are getting together and they're like, well, this maybe isn't good for my town, so they might work with the state's attorney's office. And like I said, his job is to keep the public safe, and that just seems like a safer, nicer environment for any municipality just to have, a place where you don't have encampments, like whether it's a public park or in front of, your local business, your local grocery store.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you so much for stopping by, and really appreciate both of your times. And Paul, we'll talk again hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
And Jay, I'd love to talk to you as the campaign keeps rolling around the corner. At 10:58 and a little bit of change, we'll take a quick pause. I'll come back and wrap up this Thursday morning that was right after this on Roku TV and RiverBender.com.